And
my name is Desiree Ferber, candidate number 003962-0017, and I'm going to do a presentation on Bunraku, the ancient Japanese puppetry art. So Bunraku, Japanese puppetry itself dates back to the 11th century, but Bunraku, as far as ancient arts go, is pretty new. It only originated in the 18th century, or the 19th century, I'm sorry. It started with Umera Bunraku-ken, who started a troupe that traveled around. The term for puppetry theater in Japanese is ayatsu jurori, jurori meaning puppet, and ayatsuri referring to the dramatic chanted narrative. And it also acts as a backdrop for the events of the puppet theater. The art began in the 11th century with Kugutsu Mayawashi. They were traveling puppet theater masters who went around and traveled. The art originated in an unknown location in Central Asia. Bunraku, as we know it today, actually didn't start until the 17th century, and then it just started to evolve, because up until the 17th century, the puppets had no legs or feet. And then in the 18th century, we start the very important characteristic of Bunraku, which is having the puppet master visible, and there are actually 3 puppet masters, which is also unique to Bunraku. Like in no other art are there that many puppet masters for one puppet, nor are there visible puppet masters. So the head puppet master, who operates the head and legs, and do you want to try to picture me with like a string out here? Because they have like sticks, not like a marionette string, but it's like a stick, and I have a video I'll show you later, but that goes into the puppet's head, that you move it around like this, and then it has there's separate ways to operate the eyebrows, and so the head puppet master, it's a very symbolic role. They operate the head and the right arm, and then the second puppet master is the left arm, and the third puppet master is the legs, and here you go. The other 2 puppet masters are dressed in black to make them more inconspicuous, but they are still visible. Also with female dolls, it's important to note that because they have such elaborate kimonos, they don't feel the need to give them legs or feet, because that's just a waste of resources. The play is narrated by a chanter who chants all the narrative, and he or she does the voices for all of the characters. He adjusts his tone and intonation for all of the different voices. And it's accompanied by a 3-stringed Japanese stringed instrument called the shamisen. And the shamisen is actually not played with the fingers. It's played with it almost looks like a spatula. It's a wooden stick, and the shamisen player uses it to operate the strings. Bunraku reached its height in the 18th century with Shikomatsu Manzeiman, and actually I have a play that I've set up for you and narrated the plot and everything, made it so you kind of understand what the narratives were about. But then there were after this there were a lot of writers there just weren't a lot of writers that were good at their art of writing Bunraku, and there was kind of a loss of interest. But in the second half of the 20th century, interest was renewed. And in 1963, the Bunraku Association was created. Today, the art is taught at the Bunraku Hijo, the National Bunraku Theater in Osaka, and they do many of their performances there, although they do sometimes travel. There have been a few performances in the United States, and most notably a Bunraku movie that really doesn't capture any of the essence of the original Bunraku. And then the original art of Bunraku, the student just started straight studying with a master, like you come in a tabula rosa and you learn from a master. But now they take theater classes in the National Theater. They enroll in a 2-year program, after which they go through the traditional training of training under a master. And a student can spend many years operating the legs of the puppet before they are allowed to move up to the left arm, and from there to the head and ears. So by the time you get to be a puppet master, you might be well into your old age. And then the head and right hand, it's very symbolic. Because the right hand in many cultures was often referred to as the most clean. It's used in performing religious ceremonies, and the head is where the brain is housed. So it's very spiritually symbolic. themes of the narrative, Bunraku began with telling stories of the samurai and gradually evolved to tell stories of the common people. But one thing that they are very common in all of the stories is they're always sad. Like there's very rarely a situation where they're not sad. For example, there's a woman pining over unrequited love, or a servant sacrificing himself to save his master. They accurately reflect the contradicting and confusing emotions found not only in Japanese society in the 18th century, but it continues to be applicable if you look beyond the ancient narrative and into the actual themes of the story. You can find a lot that relates to everyone across all generations. This is a picture. So as you can see, the puppets are very elaborate. They actually paint their faces by hand and do the makeup. All the kimonos are made by hand. And this is the puppet master. And as you can see, like the students are kind of below. They're dressed in black. But yes, so as you can see, these are very large puppets. Like this is as close as I could find. This puppy dog, as close as I could find to like a half. It's like half of a human being. These puppets, and they're very large. And then, of course, I feel like it was necessary to give you an example of a Bunraku production and kind of explain the plot to you so that you could really understand the truth behind like the narratives and the theme of it. And I was going to show you a video clip, but they're very sparse on YouTube of this play that I've chosen, Sugawaru, but I do have a video of other like various Bunraku productions, so hopefully this is something. And this is Sugawara Denju Tenarai Kagami. And the play was written in 1746 and staged for the first time in Osaka. There were two important happenings at the time that this play was written. The banishment of Sugawara, who was actually a real person. He was the right-hand man of the emperor, the right minister. There was a right minister and a left minister. And again, you see the symbolic importance of the right hand as truth and good. And the left-hand minister, who we'll talk about later, he was Shihei, and he was actually quite evil. He was the main villain of the thing. And then, of course, then another thing was the birth of triplets. They were unrelated to Sugaru in real life, but triplets were a big deal back then. It was very unusual for a mother to be able to conceive triplets naturally and to carry them and have all of them and for all of them to survive. So this was like huge news. Like, so then, back then, yes. So then the author, he decided to put the triplets into the play and make them important characters. Very basically, the plot is the left minister Shihei being jealous of the perceived favorite of the emperor is Sugawara, because his daughter is engaged to Prince Tokyo, not spelled like Tokyo, but differently. So he sends a spy out to catch them in some illegal premarital meetings. And then Shihei kind of uses this to like tarnish his reputation and tells the emperor that this also lies to him and tells him that Sugawaru is conspiring against him to take over the throne with Prince Tokyo. And so there he is banished. And but that's in the story, the triplets, Matsuomaru, Umeomaru, and Sakuramaru, they are the sons of Sugawaru's retainer, which was a servant. And everyone had a servant back then if you were rich, like a lifelong kind of servant. And Sugawaru sponsors them, which is like a really big deal because he like helps with their raising and helps with money because the servants didn't often have a lot of that. And because he's doing something so generous in that time, he gets to name them. So he named them after trees: pine, plum, and cherry, respectively. When the triplets grew up, they became servants too. There really wasn't much climbing of the social ladder back then. This was Japanese feudal society. So Matsuomaru works for Shihei, and he also becomes a secondary villain in the story. And Umeomaru and Sakuramaru work for Sugawara and the prince, respectively. Thus, the triplets became the victims of divided loyalty. And in Act 3, the triplets kind of have a showdown at Sugawara's birthday party, and a tree branch is broken in a fight between Akamaru and Matsuomaru, and it's Cherry Tree. That's important, because Cherry Tree is one of the trees. And Matsuomaru is disowned because, and Sakumaru commits suicide because he feels bad about breaking the tree, which was apparently a really bad omen back then, because it was something that Sugawara loved. The next bit is like, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure story, I guess, because there are and the thing with Bunraku was sometimes like there was a whole play written, and sometimes 2 or more like acts that go different ways were written, and a lot of times like things are cut out of the play. Like in the first 2 scenes in Act 1 are often cut out, and then the scene that is more often performed is one in which Sugawara's son is being targeted in his school, and Shihei threatens war unless they kill him. Another child that looks like him is killed in his place, and the son escapes. And then the rarely performed Act 5, Sugawara dies, is proven innocent, and Sugawara's now grown son kills Shihei. And this is a somewhat happy ending, so it isn't often performed. And then this video, play it. So I'm going to show you a few minutes of this video and like kind of practically explore it along with it, so that you guys can kind of see what it's supposed to look like versus how I'm doing it, which is a very rough, obviously, because I don't even have the real tools, nor the years of training. So, yes, like I said, imagine that there were 3 of me, which there obviously can't be because this is a solo presentation. And then, so I would, if I were, and there's also a platform. Like the puppets are often performed on raised platforms, so that the feet of the puppeteers are not often visible. So, yes, so here's the right arm, and then, here's me, the little second guy, who all he gets to operate is the left arm, which is kind of sad. But it's better than the legs or feet, because there's a social hierarchy. Like in mythology of all cultures, like the feet are generally associated as being dirty, and then you move up, and the brain is very holy. In Indian mythology, you find this too. Alright, so I'm going to show you a few minutes of this video. It has a chanted narrative. It has like an overture of like an English man talking, telling you things I've already told you. But so just try to pay attention to the series. There's the Xiaomi Shen player and the narrator. You can skip ahead a little bit so that we can actually see some of the, yeah.
Ranking along with
See, so if I was bottom here, I'd be operating the legs, and then the arm,
is a
and the
blend of
head,
some narrative.
and it's really hard to do because there's not 3 of me, but and the thing that you see how they're all moving in perfect synchronization so that it looks like it's one movement, that takes a lot of training, and there you can kind of see the sticks behind him that he's holding to operate the puppet. And there are the second and third puppeteers, and yes, this would be kind of like the raised platform, like they often decorate it to be a scene, so he's reaching for sky, like that, and they have obviously a very advanced set. It's quite nice. So you can skip ahead a little bit. We've already seen this bit. And this is turn it up a bit if you would. So a lot of this I like here because you can really hear the chanting of the narrator, and you can see 2 puppets working together in perfect synchronization. And something cool about this is, as you can see, you need a lot of cast because there's 3 people to each character technically.
The conflict between affairs of the heart and social obligations.
You see his kimono, the head puppeteer's kimono is decorated, and the other 2 are just wearing assassin suits. And then here's a raised platform, so if I was a puppeteer and that was a lady right there, I would be hanging my puppeteer over the edge. The third person would be kind of under the table operating the legs, and the second person would just be stooped lower than the first puppeteer, who was the main aspect of attention besides the puppet itself. So yes, and then you can see the making of costumes, which requires a lot of painstaking effort. It's very elaborate. And you can see the hand-painted backdrops. They don't really have a lot of props as much as they have the paintings in the background, because the puppets are the main focus of attention. Alright, so I think we've seen enough, and if you can see the shoes, though, they usually wear special shoes to make them taller than the other puppeteer. But I hope you enjoyed this presentation and my somewhat sad practical exploration of it, and I really hope you've learned a lot about Bunraku. Thank you very much.